Good morning, Ether World. My name is Dave Duncan, also known as Pastor Dave. Have the chance and the privilege to serve with a group of people in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at Church in the City, and it's a great place. We are in a city that I think is fairly religious, and religion, I think, is about letting other people tell you about what God is like, and then hopefully you'll keep their rules. And here at Church in the City, we want to give people control of discovering who God is. And everything that we do, we believe that we ought to challenge the status quo. And the way that we do that is helping people to personally experience God and just invite people to participate and join with us. I actually have a computer here, and this computer was wonderful. But what this computer did when it got to a certain point, it just went blank. And then there were these three really cool words down on the bottom that said something like abort, reboot, retry. And I think that's a great metaphor for what we're wanting to do in the series that we're going to be doing is in my life, maybe I need to abort the pattern of life that I'm doing. Maybe I need to hit the reset button, Alt, Control, Delete, so that I can get a fresh start. And that may mess some things up. When you push those buttons, it sometimes say you may lose some of the work that you've done, but maybe some of the work that we're doing is not, well, scratch it all. Life's got to be different. So, some thoughts as we get into this idea of reset is that it's my belief you were made to live and I was made to live, a grace-paced life. There are aspects of God and His grace that we haven't even plumbed, we haven't even explored yet. Intuitively, we all know this. There's nothing that I'm going to say that is brand new, but we need to be reminded. And Peter talks about this. He says, I will always remind you. He's writing this letter from his prison cell right before he's going to get his head cut off. He says, I'll always remind you of these things even though you know them. I think it's right to refresh your memory as long as I'm alive so that you will always remember these things. And so, writer, in terms of this idea of just rest by the name of Mark Buchanan, said, without rest, we miss the rest of God. Sometimes we have understanding about Him, but never come to enter into that personal place. And so we don't really come to know who He is and all that He has for us. We do life superficially, and therefore we're shallow people and we run on fumes. And that's kind of the culture that we've been conditioned to be in. And so I am wanting to invite myself and everyone else, particularly in the series that we're starting this week at Church in the City, is to receive God's grace. We actually have to slow down and be still. And you may want to invest and leave a legacy in people's lives, but you can't leave with others what you don't have in yourself, because we're just empty. And maybe it's time to quit spinning the plates and slow down. So I grew up as a missionary's kid overseas, and the islands that I grew up in, the Marshall Islands, these people were occupied by the Spanish and then the Germans and then the Japanese. And then after the Japanese, we detonated, I think, 67 nuclear weapons in a couple of their islands, both to get better bombing technology, but it sure seems like we were using the Marshallese people for human experimentation to see what the effects of fallout would be. But where I grew up, it was this kind of world. In the foreground here, you'll see something jutting out of the water, and behind that something else. And those are two wrecks from World War II. They were sunk in the midst of battles there. I grew up fishing on those. We leave our lives sometimes like these wrecks that are on the shore and people walk by. But in the same picture, there are two cut-off coconut trees that are sticking up out of the sand. And we had a boat that we used that, well, it needed work. It needed to slow down. It needed to go into dry dock. And so in high tide, we would float the boat in between those two tree stumps. And then when the tide would go out, we would work on the boat. And my hope as we get into this series is that we actually take the time to hit the reset button and to come to a place of stability where we can look at what needs to change in our life and what would be more life-giving. There is rich life to be lived, but we can't live it if we don't reset, if we don't get the repairs. And the alternative is to just crash and burn, or to end life an empty, hollow person. I don't think that's where any of us want to be. So I just invite you, if you're going to be in church the next few weeks, this is where we're going, and what are the places in your life that God may want to do some rearranging so that you can actually experience His grace, His peace, His shalom, and actually live life and not become a rusty wreck. So until next time, a grace-paced life for you. Make sure that no one you know, including yourself, misses the grace of God. All right, so please leave a comment or question. Be sure and give us a like, and then share it. This is something that we all struggle with, particularly in the West. And if it was beneficial, as we are doing this every week, subscribe. And until next time, take care and God bless you.